Hello and welcome to this episode of The Mindful Show. The Mindful Show is dedicated to helping us grow and learn all that we can about our mental health. How do we promote mental health? How do we prevent mental health challenges? How do we support people struggling with mental health issues? How do we access resources, information, stories, and all that to inspire us to become mentally fit? I am excited to have you here. To those of you who subscribed, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing to our newsletter. If you would like to join those that have done so, don't be left behind. Simply see the description link for where you can subscribe and also where you can follow our Facebook pages. Today, we are going into part 2 of a conversation that we started on our last episode on the basics of mental health, just the basics, beginner stuff. If you do not go to school, like very, very basic things that you and I should know about mental health. This is a learning journey for me, your host, Helena Okiring, and I invite you to join me for part 2 of this conversation on mental health. So, last week we started our conversation on the basics of mental health. We had Agatha with us on the set and we learned some key aspects of mental health. We learned that mental health has 3 key aspects which affect how we think, how we react, and how we feel. We looked at the mental aspects of it. How does our mind act? We looked at our emotions, and we also looked at how that affects our relationships. And if you are like me, you are having so much of this conversation, you couldn't get enough of it. Well, we're here for part 2 of that conversation, and today we're just going to look at mental health illness, just a tidbit for us, to understand what is mental health, what is mental illness. We're going to look at what mental illness is and what are some of the things that you should look out for, or how do you know it's time to pay attention, because there could be something to look into. On the set again is my friend, my sister, counselor, psychologist, as you have heard, Agatha Esaete. Agatha, you are welcome to part 2 of this conversation. Take us away. What is mental illness?
Mental illness is those health-related conditions, mental health-related conditions that affect you as an individual. When I sit down and I don't feel myself after losing a person, and so many things come up one after another, and they're affecting how I relate to the people and the things around me, then I know that I am mentally ill.
Okay.
Yes.
So, like mental health, is it correct? Would it be correct to say mental illness is also just when our minds are not, where they should be? We are thinking in a way that is not necessarily beneficial for us. We are relating in manners or ways that are harmful to us, or we are responding in a way that is not to our best advantage. Because I remember at the start we talked about the 3 aspects, which is how you think, how you feel, and that determines how you relate. So
those conditions actually become harmful.
Right.
To you and the people surrounding you. That word is very key. Yes, something that becomes harmful has a potential to turn into an illness.
Right.
Yeah, so mental illness is when things go wrong. Mental health is both positive and negative. Now, the negative aspect of it
is the illness.
Yes, it's considered harmful to you and the people around you.
Okay.
Yes.
What is in Uganda? What are the most common mental illnesses? Just give us 2.
We have different categories of mental illness. We have anxiety disorders, and with anxiety, it deals with your emotions. We have the phobias, panic attacks that people may get. You find a person urinating on themselves because they can't deal with certain news. They get a diarrhea instantly. We have personality disorders, and there's a common condition that people have tagged madness here, and it's called schizophrenia. In the medical aspect, it will be called out of touch with reality. They see things in different ways. They do things which are socially unacceptable in society that people would tag as being mad. They talk to themselves, and they walk in ways or things that your normal mind would find insane. But what's amazing about schizophrenia is, one, it is controlled. It is controlled. It can be managed. But people who have suffered from schizophrenia or suffer from it are still able to do amazing things because their concepts are extraordinary. And
most of them are
and
actually
if not well managed, also can bring extreme unacceptable behavior in society. So the common thing people call it is the mad people, the ones that walk on the street, but it's actually a personality disorder.
Right.
Okay. We have the eating disorders. There are people who find consolation in food. That's where we have conditions like bulimia. A person goes and eats, but they're obsessed maybe with their bodies. They go and binge, or they put their hand in and vomit everything so that they stay in a certain weight. Models do that a lot. They suffer from that. We have people who are suffering from another disorder that we have is
another category.
Another category of a disorder is something we call the post-traumatic stress disorder. This I want to break down to a person that is watching me there. Have you gone through a situation that traumatizes you to death? The word post-traumatic is you still go through past experiences. They come back like it's happening again and again. And sometimes if such people do not seek help, you end up getting into severe depression, self-harm, and things like that. We have another category that are the mood disorders. Right. The mood disorders is, and this is where depression goes because it deals with your mood.
It's very common in Uganda.
Very, very common. Depression is common, and unfortunately, most of the people that are undergoing depression, because it's stigma related, so you'll not see people coming out and boldly declaring that I am depressed because of the stigma attached to it, but it is one of the common things that we find. It's a mood disorder. It's something that affects the way you relate with yourself and the people around you. We have something that is called bipolar. Bipolar has different categories, but people with bipolar disorder are at extremes. You find those that are extremely they can be extremely with high mood, happy, and there are those who can be extremely sad. And these are people who can, so that's why depression classifies or it categorizes all of this under the mood. Yes. And still under the personality and all of that, you'll still find people with, it's a common one actually, there's something we call the obsessive compulsive
disorder.
The ones who love cleaning.
I think I need to be checked for that. Yeah.
It's something that happens, you're obsessed with. I've seen many people confess to that in our country. I find myself cleaning the same place. When I go and touch the tap and close it again, I feel germs have come up. It can be very disruptive,
Yeah.
So
every time I go into the mirror and I check if my hair is on thick, like if everything is looking good, is that OCD?
No, but again, we have people in personality. We have people who are narcissistic.
Right.
Yes, they just have a self-love that is extreme, and it becomes very, very harmful to other people. The extreme levels of selfishness, thinking about themselves in certain things, and so there are so many. There are so many, but I think the focus should be more to how do I know that I am at risk? How do I know that I am losing it? But the good news about mental illness is it is also managed.
Wow. So just, to bring us up to speed, I think, first of all, I'm learning so much. So thank you so much, Doctor. I've learned that there are personality disorders, there are mood disorders, there are eating disorders as well. There are anxiety disorders. So people, at least we know 4 right now. And just before we go into the next part of the conversation, which is, what you have rightly said. How do you know, that I think I need to pay attention to this? I want to encourage us to, educate ourselves about, some of these issues. We have shared a link in the description tab to a mental health encyclopedia, basics, that you need to know. I read it, or I have downloaded it, and now I am reading it, and I find it very insightful. So I encourage you, to just click the description tab and, look through, and you will find a link to share with you some of those resources. Also, you can subscribe to the Mindful Post, which is our newsletter, where we also share more resources, stories, and information on what we're talking about. And that includes the issue of mental health. Yes, Agatha, in closing, how do we know that we are slipping, into a state or a situation where we need to seek help?
I will say that the extremes happens in this situation. If you find that something happened to you and then you find that you lose interest, when I lose interest, you talked about COVID in the beginning. Let's use that as a scenario here.
Fantastic.
Because of the different things that have gone on, my shop, my business can no longer operate as it used to. I find that because of that stress related to looking for rent and all of that, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. Now I'm going to find that I lose sleep, something we call insomnia. I lack sleep. I don't know if you've been in a situation where you just lose sleep for days. You can't sleep. You doze up, you get a power nap of 5 minutes, and then you're up again. You get startles. When a person is talking to you, you just find yourself all of a sudden, you're shuddering. And these conditions may not happen just one. You may find you have 3 or 4, and they are existing and they are not going off. Having stress is normal, because stress is part of life. But prolonged stress is now what we call burnout. That is also one of the signs. Burnout is when you fail to cope with the stress. I can't get it out of myself. I lack sleep. There are those who oversleep. I lose interest in normal activities. My loss of appetite, it happens. I find, there is overeating now. So I become,
both ways.
Yes, both ways. They are both extremes.
Unexplained increase or unexplained loss.
Exactly.
Right.
Mood swings over unexplained issues. I just find myself crying or laughing.
Yeah.
Over nothing. I find myself, I don't like to interact with people. I would rather be by myself. I start hearing voices telling me to harm myself, or there is something we call paranoia, I start believing I am the I am the Queen of England, and I believe it. Things happening inside you that cannot be explained. There are quite so many. But if you find 3 or 4 of this existing and with prolonged period of time, then you know that you need help. Most of the time, women tend to speak out. But then men suffer silently because of these situations that happen. And if not attended to, then they're able to slip to a state where now they become destructive. So we are talking about you're lacking sleep. You know what happens when you can't sleep? Yes. You sit down and you're not able to sleep. You start feeling feverish, yet they test and there's nothing. You're not happy at all. I can't eat, I can't interact with people. That's why we said your mental health is about you and your environment. So if you're detaching yourself from your environment and you prefer to be by yourself, then you need a check. Okay. If this is prolonged and not attended to, then it's going to see you in a state where you just can't cope up or interpret everything around you as positive. People like this even are extremely paranoid. They believe everyone is against them. Anything that you do, I may be speaking with you like this, Helena, and then you just burst out laughing. Out for unexplained laughter. These are the mood swings, Yes, so all of those are just
oscillating
indicators.
Between extremes.
Yes.
For one
extremely
reason or
sad,
the
I'll
other.
laugh and then I start crying. For no reason. Yes, so there are people who are experiencing loss right now because of post-COVID, how it was
Job
before.
cuts,
Do you know what it means for a slay queen, for an influencer, what it means for a person who was a party animal, that they can't go out anymore, having to sit by themselves? There are people who are not used to being by themselves.
Right.
But now, because all of that is gone, you start having self-hate. There are these suicidal thoughts. They come in. You just feel like, but if I cross there and kill myself, it won't happen. And which brings me to this issue, and I want to emphasize this using this platform. Most people that have committed suicide, of course, our society is not accepting of such situations because as a result of depression. I want people to understand that a depressed person or a person that is suffering from mental illness does not reason the way you and I reason. Their mindset is extremely different from you and me.
Wow.
Where you see suicide as something that is abominable, for this person, they see it as a way to end your suffering for the people around them. So if you know anyone that is suffering from mental illness, it is not the time to stigmatize them. The time is now to, first of all, be accepting of them and then recommend them to the right people that can be able to help them.
Okay, so if you are watching this and you're in Uganda, just tell us 1 or 2 places when I'm not feeling well, mentally, where can I go?
The first thing, of course, every hospital right now has, they have a facility for psychiatric services, but Mulago Hospital, there is a psychiatric wing where you'll have access to counselors and also psychiatrists. The counselors, they can be able to know. They work on the behavior part and the motive, whereas the psychiatrists work on the mood part. They try to suppress your moods. For example, if you have the mood swings, the bipolar disorder that are extreme, they try to normalize them so that you are able to live your life without being disruptive to yourself and the people around you. Okay. We have Butabika, which is misunderstood to be for mentally ill people, but that place it's user-friendly. It has a place where people who are in the extremes, of course, will be put, but also where you can walk in and have your mental health assessed.
Right.
And then, of course, we have the services. The first thing for you to do is seek out those places that you know, seek out counseling services, and then you'll be recommended.
Oh, wow.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Agatha. One of the things that we have learned also is that mental health, mental illness can be prevented, but it can also be treated. It is not permanent. So this conversation has been healing for me. It has been validating for me, but it has also been extremely insightful. And I hope that as you are watching, you can say the same thing too. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Mindful. I have been your host, Helena Okiri. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.